As a parent or mentor, you have the awesome opportunity to help a young person build a future. So if the future they want is in the military, take the time to learn more at todaysmilitary.com, because their success tomorrow begins with your support today.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian and actor Matt Knudsen talks about the show Shrinking on Apple TV+.
I got a great audition. It was for a new series on Apple TV called Pinch. The show was created by Bill Lawrence, Jason Segal, and Brett Goldstein. Wow! And the stars of the show, Jason Segal and Harrison Ford. At 79 years old, Harrison Ford agreed to be a television series regular for the first time in his career. This show is going to be epic. I thought to myself, oh man, whoever gets this job is going to be so lucky. I never dreamed for a second that it would be me.
Today on the show, comedian and actor Matt Knudsen talks about what it's like working with Jason Segal and Harrison Ford on the set of Shrinking. Stay close.
Hello friends, it's Matt Knudsen, and you are listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a brand new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you enjoyed the show last week with comedian and author Katie Love. Katie Love talks about growing up a Jehovah's Witness, and that's always fun. Katie was married at 16 years old. And, has just led quite a life. Some of her family are still in the Jehovah's Witness, and she talks all about it. Very interesting episode. But don't go anywhere today, because today I'm here with a friend of mine who I haven't seen or talked to in a while, and a lot of things are happening for him. It is comedian Matt Knudsen. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Christine. Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Well, look, when I saw you came out with a brand new book, it's called Have I Seen You in Anything? True Hollywood Stories from a Guy That Seems Familiar. When I saw that book came out, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to promote this, because you're not only one of the nicest guys in the world, you have had an incredible career. I mean, you really have.
Christine. Thanks, buddy. That's nice of you to say.
We're going to talk today about the HBO show you've been on with frickin', you know who, Jesus.
Bill Paxton?
No, not with Bill Paxton. The one you're on with Harrison Ford.
Oh, yeah, that's Apple TV Plus.
Okay, whatever. Apple TV
Sure.
Plus. Oh, yeah, and the HBO Bill Paxton. But the one I'm talking about is Shrinking. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. But before we do, like your book talks about, you really have had a long career. And it's not like it's all about money, but it's about a lot of interesting projects.
Yeah, hey, thanks, buddy. I sincerely believe the word yes is the gateway to adventure.
Yeah.
You pretty much know what's going to happen when you say no, but when you say yes, the sky's the limit. So I guess the elevator pitch of the book was I met President Obama in the White House. I met Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Mansion.
Yeah.
And William Shatner asked me to call him Bill. So all these stories. I mean, the joke was a friend of mine said I have this Forrest Gump element to me, which I assume what he meant was at some point an ex-girlfriend of mine will show up with my bastard son and die.
No.
But I was wrong. It was a different. Right.
I think what he's trying to say is you're an everyman, and then you have had a lot of extraordinary experiences. The last time you were on Storyworthy, you talked about being in the White House And it was like a big open house thing. And it was, you were actually displaying something. What was it again you were displaying?
What were we displaying?
It was a camera thing.
Yes, there was an app called iMutator.
Yes.
That Michelle Obama found online.
Right.
And she made that the gift for everyone who came to the Halloween party at the White House. But there was 5 people that were invited to be. It was almost not a trade show, but you were really hands-on, improvising, interacting with people, take their picture. And then this was like 2010. It was like kind of right before Snapchat hit.
Right.
You could turn someone into a creature, like the palette included like the mummy, and you had the bandages or the eyeball popping out, or the vampire and all that stuff. So we took people's pictures and spent all night in the White House.
Yeah, it wasn't like a trade show. You were working a party.
I was working a party.
You were working the party. But what I remember very well is that Michelle Obama turned to you and said, "Hey, you're pretty funny."
Oh, you are funny.
She said, you are funny.
What happened was, like, I was doing someone's photo, and they were, being mutated. And she came up and was kind of standing behind me. And as she was standing there watching the process happen, a polite gentleman came up to her with his iPhone out. And he's just like, ma'am, could I get a picture, please? And she was very courteous and said, I can only, if I take a photo with you, everyone's going to want one. It'll be the only thing that I do all night long. So I'm sorry, but I can only pose for official photography. And without thinking, I leaned over to her and I said, "Yeah, I have the same policy." And she like head back, like, I know what like a deep, authentic laugh is.
Yeah.
And she was just, ha ha.
Isn't that awesome?
She put her hand on my forearm and used her other hand to rub my back. And she was like, "Oh, you are funny."
That is so sweet.
Like, thank you. That's a class clown makes good.
But she wouldn't let herself be immutated then.
We didn't take a picture. I didn't take a picture of any of the family.
Yeah.
No.
I guess I was just thinking, for the experiment. She's the one who liked it so much.
True. She was the reason iMutator was in the White House.
Yeah, I'm just saying she could have. All right, I like her. Don't get me wrong, but she could have.
Sure.
Could have maybe taken.
She could have got a picture. Well, there's other elements that I talk about in the book too, wherein it's also this giant. The White House is a giant gallery too.
Yeah.
So all of the president's portraits, and it's like they're up hanging in there. We would have to get an escort to use the restroom, but after we'd been there for about an hour, people, I'm not going to say the word relaxed because they were completely professional, but they weren't on guard in the same way. So like as they're escorting you to the restroom, like, one of the security is like, "Hey, you want to see the sword George Washington was wearing when he crossed the Delaware?"
Yes, I do.
I was like, "Yeah, I sure do. You better believe I do." And you just go into a room. It's kind of this little private study, and it's in a shadow box, just leaning in the corner. It's not like
cool.
Behind these laser beams and stuff. It is a residence, but it's also the stuff it's filled with is national treasures.
Well, the people, the president and the family lives upstairs.
Right.
You didn't try to get up the stairs.
No. Yeah. Well, briefly, but I was gang tackled and, escorted off.
You got to keep it cool.
You got to keep it cool.
You really, to go through all of these experiences in a book, it must be somewhat cathartic because now you kind of put that behind you, as it were. I mean, this was written before Shrinking, right? Or not?
I'm sorry. Oh, the book?
Yeah.
This was written after Shrinking. I wrote it in January of this year.
Oh,
so
wow.
I started like right around my birthday and I finished the 4th of July weekend.
Wow.
So it was about 6 months.
I think I was thinking that it was more of a pandemic thing.
No, this was more of a actors and writers strike thing.
Oh, yes.
There was also an element too where I it wasn't like I needed to do this detailed research of everything and be like, all right, so what year was this and all this other stuff? Or it wasn't even a narrative story. There's a series of essays. I'm calling them my Casey Kasem-esque top 40. And they're just these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 page things. I think the Obama one maybe got close to 8 pages, but it's a bathroom reader, if you will. And all I did is I just sat down and I remembered all the things that happened and just flushed them out with like details that I hadn't drilled down on in a certain way, but it was just remembering and not creating.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting way to put it. And it is such a wonderful collection. I mean, it's right there. It's all together. I mean, it is like not a bathroom book, but it's definitely a book you can pick up and put down and just reading these little stories. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's really very interesting.
Thank you, Christine. I got a text from my sister like right before we went on the air. And she said, I was enjoying your book so much, I burned dinner.
Oh,
I was like, that's the best review.
That is so cute. That's the best. And of course, you were born in Hawaii. I don't need to tell you that.
True.
But did you feel a big impact when Maui was burning?
I didn't have any friends and family there. I moved when I was a kid. The impact I felt was empathy for people struggling.
Sure.
But in an island way, I can't claim a connection, but just terrible. So sad.
But your life sailing around the world as a merchant marine, which I don't say that every day.
Right.
But did that kind of love of the water come from your roots in Hawaii? Or was that like later in your life that you developed this love of the sea?
That's a great question. I don't know if they're related at all. It was just shipping out was something I discovered when I realized going to college wasn't for me. I had signed up and I was like, I was taking junior college classes, and I was a cashier at an Office Depot, and I was like 18. And I remember one day I was like going and buying a pair of khaki pants, and I was like, oh no. You have that moment like, that time in your life where people tell you what to do, that time is over. So now's the time that you tell yourself what to do. And I was just like, this isn't the way. So I just met a guy who was a sailor, and he introduced me through the channels. But even to this day, I've never met another merchant marine outside of people that I knew from from that industry, or maybe we're like Facebook friends or something like that now. But
sure, well, me neither. Of course, me neither.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean to be naive, but a merchant marine is a part of the Marine Corps or not?
Merchant Marines are not military. They're private citizens. It's more of a merchant mariner in the same way that the best analogy I've heard it called is the truckers of the sea. So you're transporting cargo that could be grain, oil tankers, whatever. There are some ships that sail in support of U.S. military. They can take more cargo and things. My first job out of school, I sailed to Africa, to Kenya during Operation Restore Hope, and that was a military mission. But even then, I wasn't enlisted. I was just a crew member on this ship.
So you're on one of those huge freighters, and it has all the what's the containers? Is that what you're saying?
Containers. The one I was on in Africa was something called a ro-ro, and they call that because all the decks are connected, and you can get like a tank on or a Bradley or any of these things and roll them down the deck, and the container or the hull is maybe like 5 decks deep, 6 decks deep, so you can really load a lot of gear on there. So my first job, I went to training school at Piney Point, Maryland, and I got out and I was sailing to Africa. I turned 20 in Africa. And I remember I was always the kid, every ship I was on, I was always 20 to 30 years younger than everyone else. And pretty salty guys, but definitely not military. Our accreditation was through the Coast Guard. You have to take exams, but it's not officially enlisted. It's a union job.
I was going to say, I bet it paid well, and then you must save money because you're out on that flipping boat all the time.
You're right. Yeah, there's no place to spend money. That's why you hear like, you're like, yeah, you went off like a sailor on shore leave. It's like, I'm here to tell you that's a thing,
Yeah, I bet it is. It must be such a lonely life. I mean, you're walking around on this ship and it's just you and these huge containers in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And with the today's merchant fleet, it's also, they've really shrunk down the crews as well. A lot of things have been automized. That's not a word, but you know what I mean? There's been automation and downsizing to the point where you could be on this huge ship and the crew is like 25 people.
Yeah.
Wow. And then if it was the Navy, it would be 5 times that.
Sure. Did you have good food though? Don't they always try to feed the people well?
Yeah, the food was always pretty good by and large. But when you get on a ship, there's 3 very specific departments. And when you choose a career in that industry, you have to pick one of the 3. And that's the deck department, the engine department, or the steward department. And the steward department was responsible for cooking and food and laundry and things like that. And then deck department and engine are pretty self-explanatory.
So there's no hospitality.
No. Yeah. Hey, where's my chocolate on my pillow?
Wow. Holy cow. Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to get over to go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to say, I was in the deck department because the reality of the other 2 departments is the view never changes. When you're in the kitchen, it's the same view. When you're in the engine room, it's the same view, no matter where you are in the world. Yeah. When you're on the deck department, you're on the bridge. You're literally at the steering wheel looking out at everything. So it was a no-brainer.
Boy. Yeah, no kidding. I would hate to be under the water, underneath with no windows, and you're just in this galley. It sounds like a nightmare.
And this with high swells rocking the ship, and you're just watching the pans swing back and forth. You're like, I wanted to throw up even before I came into the galley.
Yeah, I bet. Holy cow! And then you decide. I mean, I don't have to go through your whole life here, but
sure,
then
of course I don't care. It's fun. I've had an incredibly lucky ride. So
yeah, I mean, after these trips to Europe and Africa and the Far East, you decide to stop sailing. Is it called sailing?
Mm-hmm. Or sailing or shipping out.
You stop shipping out and you start doing stand-up.
Right.
Did you write in your head on the ship? Were you like writing in your head?
I did. Yeah. I had like little notebooks and jokes that I kept, or, you know what, especially I guess I'd be lying if I said I don't do it to this day, but like, if you say something to people and you get a laugh, or you see there's some kind of response, or there's a connection, or a familiarity is the word that I use. So people are like, there's a common feeling that people have. I would like jot that down, or, notice, or write a joke, or, but
yeah, you have to jot it down. If not, it's gone. Right. It's just gone into the ether.
That's my favorite Mitch Hedberg joke.
What?
So he's like, so I was lying in bed and I thought of something funny, and my notebook was across the room. And so I had to get up and either write it down or lay there and convince myself that it wasn't funny. But his advice, and it's advice for anyone, don't be lazy.
Yeah,
don't be lazy. Jot it down, do the thing. Also, if you jot something down and like you look and there's a pile and there's like 8 things and like 7 of them are garbage, you're like, ugh. Why did I even write it down? Maybe there's going to be one thing in there, but if you only write down one thing, you don't have the other 7 to throw away.
Right. That's so interesting. Even when I watch a friend get up and they say, tell me what you think or take notes, if I don't write down my thoughts about their set, like immediately, I'll forget. Yeah. It's not, you can't remember.
No.
These little nuances unless you have it written down.
True.
I agree.
There's been so many ideas that I was lazy and I'm like, I wish I would.
Yeah.
Even now, as I'm like, I've been doing stand-up for a long time, I look back at other like notebooks or like Word docs. I was like, I've typed things up, and you review these things. You're like, why did I abandon that? Why didn't I flesh that out more? I remember, especially when I was first starting out, I wanted to always be like doing new stuff every single night. And it's just like, well, sometimes, new stuff means you're doing 2 or 3 new tags or having something different, not a completely new concept every night. I don't think any working comic does that,
It's funny to go back into the old notebooks. I have like stacks of them, or to listen to the old sets, on my voice memos. And sometimes the jokes, I said like 6 sentences for a joke that I now have down to 1 sentence.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You thought you had a chunk. You actually had 1 line.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so
Very
true.
common.
Now it's so true. And you look back and you say, boy, I don't know why I said, about 11 times.
Nothing worse than your mistakes. Trust me.
Yeah.
One of mine in stand up is I say, and like that.
All right.
Oh, I hate that.
Right.
It's so frustrating.
Well, I saw this. This is before he passed away. It was some kind of like documentary, and George Burns was out and doing a show, and he was like in his late 90s. Like mid to late 90s, but still
it's
like
an old man.
He did some supper club act, and then like afterwards, the camera followed him back to his room with his manager, and they sat down with his notes, and they were working on it. They were honing it.
Yeah.
And this guy's 97. It's never ending.
That reminds me of Rodney Dangerfield walking into a club with Jackie the Joke Man Martling. Jackie.
Yeah, of course.
Jackie was on my show. And Jackie says the first thing they did as soon as he walks into Caesars is he goes right to the box office and he says, how many seats are sold?
Yeah.
That's
that's what he wants to know.
But that's what everybody wants to know.
Oh, yeah. How'd I sell? Anyone show up?
Yeah, as a producer, absolutely.
Totally.
All right, we're going to get to your story in just a second, but I did want to remind everybody to check out My Life in 3 Songs. It's over there on Spotify, or just check out mylifein3songs.com. This is a show that I'm very passionate about. I talk to comedians about the 3 songs in their life that have impacted them. Not their favorite songs, but songs that really have made a difference in their life and maybe gives you a glimpse on where the comedian grew up. I'm going to have you do this show as well, Matt. It is just fantastic. Recently, I've had on Wendy Liebman and Jackie Cation, Kevin Allison, Jimmy Pardo, and Patton Oswalt. So the show's going really strong, and I'd love you guys to tune in. Again, mylifein3songs.com. All right, you guys, you hear him talking. He's here right now, Matt Knudsen. He is a comedian, and you've really done quite a bit of work. You've been on Conan, The Late Late Show, Last Call, ASX Live, and Comics Unleashed. Then you did a stand-up special called Good News, which was a dry bar comedy special. And then you've got a couple of albums like The Comedy Stylings of Matt Knudsen, American, and Yes And. American was my favorite. I loved American.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
That it was so you,
Thanks.
it was super you.
I really appreciate it. I have, as I do shows across the country, I'll have the CDs and the download cards available. And people will always ask, especially if they're thinking about just buying one, they're like, which one should I buy? And I was just like, in the back of my mind, all I think of when I think of American is I recorded it at the Improv in Hollywood, Bud Friedman's house. And I closed out the set. I was playing the piano, and I hired a live jazz quartet to back me.
Wow!
So I have this kind of bit where I'll just do these like non sequitur one-liner jokes, like Mitch Hedberg jokes, Zach Galifianakis jokes, where it's just like it's maybe 2 sentences and you kind of move on. But it's like 15 minutes at the piano as we're playing. I throw solos to the band. It was a fun recording.
So wonderful. You really are multi-talented. Todd Glass does a little bit of that, but he's doing more of the singing himself. But he'll bring on guys with the instruments who, back him up in a really funny way. Sure.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. And this new show that I've been touring as a stand-up, when we came out of the pandemic, I was, just doing more traditional stand-up, it's one man, one microphone. But the show that I hit the road on, I just wanted to try and pivot a little bit and do something different and use more of the art that's in my life and bring it to the stage. So now it's stand up. I also play music. I bring a keyboard out. I have short films that I play.
Wow.
There's sketches, improv. I do a tap dance number. I call it the one man variety show.
That is
And
fantastic.
Thanks. The elevator pitch is the Chappelle Show meets Lawrence Welk.
I've had people love it. That's so entertaining.
Yeah, it's, I'm grateful to say audiences have been delighted. And it's fun for me too, because even if I do 2 shows in one night, the shows are different.
Yeah.
I'm not running my hour.
Yeah,
And
at least,
I'm not doing the same thing,
You stay present and excited about new material going, or new audiences to see you. Sure.
Yeah. Totally. And for example, one of I'm sure I didn't make up the concept, but I do improvised sketches wherein you have the skeleton for the sketch. Like, for example, there's a character or a bit that I do called KTZN, like KTZN The Zone. He's like a morning radio guy.
Right.
He does the community calendar announcements, like this weekend, Charlotte, get out there, guys. But what the events are suggestions from the audience that they write down on a slip of paper as they're entering the showroom.
That is so funny.
So there's a certain point in the show where, hey guys, I have this on the air screen up and I'm wearing sunglasses, and someone who works at the club will bring me the dish that has all these suggestions in it. But there's a prompt by the door that's just a made up event.
A made up event, right.
Cloud Appreciation Day,
right.
The paperclip convention,
right.
Something that's not a real thing. And so I pull out the slip of paper. People have their suggestion honored. There's kind of intrigue, maybe he's going to pick mine.
And you say them all the same way with that voice.
I say them all with that voice, guys, get out there, the community calendar.
At first, I thought you might say you read the help wanteds or the crime report, or maybe Lost Kitten. Do a lost cat for me.
Guys, check the tops of trees. There's a lost kitten in town. And if you are feline friendly and be honest, aren't we all? The lost kitten was last in a Pullman date, which actually, ironically enough, Pullman dates is my favorite snack and Newton. 89.9 KTZ The Zone, Charlotte, Myrtle Beach, and all the Grand Strand.
Traffic, sports, and weather at the top of the hour.
Brought to you by Dickie Lester and Associates. Have you or someone you know been the victim of a defective hernia mesh? Oh, Dickie Lester. So you get this bit where it's set up, but it's new for you every night. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to read. And so there's a charge that's very fun,
So smart, so funny.
Thanks.
I just love it. All right. So I want to hear now. I mean, you've been an actor on many different sitcoms, including The Big Bang Theory and Key and Peele, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Big Love, Boston Legal. I liked Boston Legal, by the way.
It was a great show. That's where I met Shatner.
Oh, wow.
I went there and I had a very small part. I was this is very early in my career. I was a waiter.
Yeah.
And, they one of the assistant directors came over and he just wanted to make sure he knew how to pronounce my last name correctly. He's like, it's Knudsen. I was yes, it's Matt Knudsen. He's like, okay. Would you like to meet Mr. Shatner now?
Wow.
And I was just yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So he walked me over and Bill was sitting at a pool table and God bless him. He stood up, got out of his chair, and the AD said, Mr. Shatner, this is Matt Knudsen. And so he stuck his hand out and he kind of, while we were shaking hands, Christine, he gave me what I could only call a once-over.
Wow.
And said, and I quote, call me Bill.
Wow.
I was just I don't know what decision was being made during the handshake and the up and down, but I guess I passed the sniff test. And all I could say was, I'll do that. Thanks so much, Bill. Nice to meet you.
Was the scene that you had with him?
He was in the scene's periphery.
Yeah.
He was actually looking on to a scene that I did have with James Spader.
I see.
So the episode was called Word Salad Days. And James Spader's character he couldn't talk right. Like he was saying
can.
words, but it wasn't, it was literally word salad. All the things made no sense at all. Like, tangerine couch puzzles, sometimes cloud breaks,
Really?
where I think people have this thing where their mind shuts down and everything's available, but they couldn't. So Bill Shatner takes James Spader to like this, a sports club or kind of a pool club. He's just, let's relax, and you just kind of so he encourages him to try and pick up this woman, but he's saying all these word salad things, and she thinks he's a creep and splashes her drink in his face.
Oh my gosh.
And then I come in as the poolside waiter and say, should I charge that to your room, sir?
Very funny.
That's
really funny. I'm telling you. All right. Well, you guys can go over to mattknudsen.com for a lot more information. Yeah. Knudsen, by the way, is one of the only words with the K and the N pronounced. You don't say knife or knowledge.
Hey, I can know.
God, that's upsetting. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Matt Knudsen.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. And I guess what I'll just do, since this is the more recent, is I'll just read some of the chapter from my new book, Have I Seen You in Anything?
Yeah.
True Hollywood Stories from a Guy That Seems Familiar. This is chapter 21, Jason Segal. It's my mother. Again. Not that this was news to anyone, but the entire world changed during the COVID-19 pandemic. We stayed home, we stayed safe, we masked up, we got vaccinated, we devoured the news, we drove the empty streets, we doomed, we gloomed, we drank wine at noon. We survived. Do you remember where you were when COVID-19 first became real for you? Like the actual moment? Because I do. It was March 8th, 2020. I ran the Los Angeles Marathon. And in the days leading up to the race, there were rumblings that the event might even be canceled. Canceled? Really? There was some mysterious virus that was killing people all over the world, and a few cases had already shown up in the United States. There was even a cruise ship full of Americans that were left drifting off the West Coast just to be on the safe side. From there, it only got worse. When lockdowns began, I distinctly remember thinking, well, how long can this possibly go on? Like a week, 2?
Right.
No way it'll be 3, right? The LA Marathon was the last public event I did for over a year.
Oh my gosh.
It was my 8th year running LA, and normally the streets were swarmed with marathon supporters and the energy was incredible. On March 8th, 2020, however, the crowds were forebodingly sparse. It was weird. Now, even without a global pandemic, a career in the entertainment industry is fickle. The joke in Hollywood is that you go from who is Matt Knudsen to get me Matt Knudsen to get me someone like Matt Knudsen to who is Matt Knudsen. There are ups, there are downs. It's like they say when you invest in stocks, past performance is no guarantee of future results. When I realized that the entire industry would be shuttered indefinitely, I shaved my head, I wrote a movie, and for the first time in my entire career, I filed for unemployment. There was nothing being filmed, and even stand-up comedy clubs were closed. Many never reopened. Now, during challenging times, the guiding principle in my life has always been to survive and advance, endure, move forward. We survived, we advanced. Now, the way that acting auditions traditionally worked is that when you're invited to read, you're given the script and an appointment time, i.e. Paramount Studios, room 109, building 10, Wednesday, 2 p.m. You prepared, you went in, you did your bit, and you left. There was a camera operator, high-end lighting, and professional audio. Also, when you audition live in a casting office, there's always someone at the appointment called a reader. They'll read the signs off camera for you. For lack of a better explanation, a reader is your scene partner. When you're auditioning for a show or movie, the star is 99.9% of the time never at the audition. If you're lucky enough to get the job, you'll meet them on set or at the table read. Their role, however, is read by the casting director, the associate or the assistant. And from there, your video is sent to directors and producers, and they pick who gets the job.
And that's the way it was forever and ever and ever.
Totally.
Yeah, that's
Totally,
an audition,
totally.
of course.
Yeah. And it's really changed since the pandemic, and we're still email. I mean, we're on strike right now, but when it comes back, we'll still be emailing things in. So I'll skip ahead a little bit, but suffice it to say, during the pandemic, you were the actor, camera, lighting, sound, editor, and maybe like your friend on Zoom was the reader, or your poor wife after she came home from work. Hey, can you spend another hour with me as I'm unable to remember a series of words for the next 45 minutes? So I will just say this. My mindset was malaise. I just didn't think any jobs were on the horizon. But in the middle of all that, I got a great audition, like a great audition. It was for a new series on Apple TV called Pinch. The show was created by Bill Lawrence, Jason Segal, and Brett Goldstein. Wow. And the stars of the show, Jason Segal and Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford. Okay, yeah. I won't waste time overstating the obvious, but Harrison Ford will go down as one of the greatest leading men in the history of cinema. I mean, he is my personal and professional hero for so many reasons. I mean, if he was only Han Solo, it would have been enough. If he was only Indiana Jones, that would have been enough. Maybe it was because Bill Lawrence created Scrubs and Ted Lasso. Maybe it was because Jason Segel is a movie star. Maybe it is because Brett Goldstein is Roy Kent. Whatever the reason, at 79 years old, Harrison Ford agreed to be a television series regular for the first time in his career. This show is going to be epic. I thought to myself, oh man, whoever gets this job is going to be so lucky. I never dreamed for a second that it would be me.
Wait a second. I want to hear about the audition for it. Was it, in fact, on the computer, you had to do your own tape?
I auditioned for it with the cell phone that's in my hand right now.
Wow.
And I didn't hear anything except it didn't even occur to me to like, oh, have they picked the guy yet? It was just like I say in the book, it's like putting your message in the bottle and throwing it into the ocean. You're not going to stand on the shore. Anyone write back yet? It's just like you don't even think about it.
Well, auditions become like errands at some point.
You're right. Yeah, well put. You just got to kind of
churn them
out, do your idea, and hope for the best. But I was one of the patients, and if your listeners know, I was the guy. Like when you first come in, you think, spoilers ahead, you think Jason's the patient because his life is a wreck.
Right.
I'm sitting in the chair. I have a tweed blazer on. I'm actually wearing these glasses that I'm wearing right now. They're my glasses. And you think he's a therapist, but then Jason sits in the chair and says, so Stephen, what's on your mind? I'm Stephen. And like later in the series, my mother passes away and I'm the one sitting with Jason. We spread her ashes at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. So, every shot, because I was watching some of it, every shot is so beautiful. It looks like it's shot like a movie.
Agreed.
Like it's perfection. Do you know who the DP was on that?
Boy, that's a great question because he was such a wonderful guy too. I'm blanking on his name.
If only there were some resource where we could find that out.
If only there was an internet movie database.
Wait a minute. Is that an IMDb? Interesting. No, but how incredible for you. And so when you got the call where you were at home, of course, because we all were.
I was at home. Yeah. Yeah. And I really couldn't believe it.
So who called you? Your agent called.
My agent called and he's like, hey, you're working Tuesday. You're fitting Monday. It was supposed to be originally it was supposed to be a day of work, and it set up the bit. But while I was on set with these guys, it was Jason, Bill, the director, James Ponsoldt, who's just the best dude and a brilliant director. He did The Spectacular Now and just a ton of great movies. Yeah. So we were like all hanging out on set, and we shot the scene and did the coverage, and Bill's standing there and he's like, hey, let's improvise a therapy scene. And I was like, oh, okay, and
What a dream.
I'm grateful that I've had. I've done stand up and improv for like 20 years.
Sure.
So there's that immediacy of like, yeah, hey, let's do it. And if I didn't have the improv background, I might have froze up. It might not have been, the moment might have been too big, but I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Act like you've been there before. Right.
Yeah.
So Bill's leaving. Act as if. It's brilliant. As Bill's leaving the set, he kind of like walks past me and just says in like this hushed tone, because Jason feeds me this line. He's like, so Steven, what's on your mind again? He's like, this time when he asks what's on your mind, say, it's my mother again. But Jason didn't hear that, right? So we're rolling. I say like, it's my mother again. And Jason Segal was so present, his head just like sunk in total defeat. It was like his burnout had manifested, and you could see it physically in his body. Like, you're going to talk about your mother again for another hour.
That's funny.
Somebody kill me. So
that's wonderful.
So from there, we just kind of, maybe we rolled for about 10 minutes and had a really fun back and forth. And then once we got through like the master, what we talked about, then they're like, talk about this again, where you're like the close-ups but you still kind of add and elaborate. And 2 months later, they called me up and they're like, hey, they're bringing Steven back. And I started reading the script when I got it. And what the writers had done is taken what Jason and I had improvised and fleshed it out into a full storyline for like this Steven character. You're just like, it was, I've never had that experience before in my entire life, Christine. And to have it happen on a show with those heavy hitters, just
talent. Yeah.
It was unbelievable and life-changing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How exciting.
Super duper exciting.
Well, the thing is all of your preparedness paid off. It's that whole preparedness meets the opportunity, and then boom, there's the opportunity. For some reason, you and Jason Segal remind me of one another.
I get that a lot.
It's your height. Yeah. It's your build.
The jawline too.
You look like brothers. Almost.
Yeah. What's funny? My own brother, when the trailer for Shrinking dropped, there's a bunch of different clips and scenes and stuff. And one of them is Jason Segal riding a bike, and someone opens up a car door and he hits it and it falls over the top. I don't know if you've seen that or if anyone remembers that. My own brother sent me a text. He's like, did they get you a stuntman for that, or did you do it yourself? I was like, that wasn't me. Funny. That was the movie star,
Of course, of course. That was Jason Segal, but and it was a stunt person. So there's two people right there. Wow, you're showing me the picture in the book of you and Jason. Yeah.
So the layout of the book is every header for every chapter is just a picture of the person, and I would say most of them, I have a picture with them, and there's some kind of candid set pick
scenario, and
then the name of the chapter is the name of the celebrity, and just kind of roll into it. And some people I didn't, like my Mel Brooks story is, talking to him briefly at a restaurant because I couldn't help myself, but I also wasn't gonna, I want a picture, just like, I'm going to use this opportunity to tell him he's the best,
Yeah. Was he happy to see you or to meet you?
He here's the story in a nutshell. I hope you still buy the book, everybody. I went to his table and I said, Mr. Brooks, my name is Matt Knudsen, and I couldn't be a bigger fan of yours. And he said, Matt Knudsen, you got great taste. And I was like, and I said, thank you. Have a great night. And if he said that line a million times, that was the only time he said it to me. So I put that on the back of the book. It's like,
actually, I did see that quote now that you're talking about it. That is amazing. Yeah. And there's another quote on the back of the book I wanted to mention from Variety magazine. Matt Knudsen's Have I Seen You in Anything? Knudsen gives us a fresh and funny look behind the scenes with some of our favorite people and programs. All entertainers can benefit from his stories from the trenches, and all humans will enjoy his memorable encounters with everyone from President Obama to the cast of The Simpsons. And so that's from Variety. How wonderful is that?
Yeah, there's some pretty nice ink. Yeah,
I'm happy for
pretty
you.
kind to say thank you. So that's also what I had used in, like, you know, when you put the book on Amazon, they have like the description page. It's just like, take it away, Variety.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even try and summarize, because what was really nice is it was really gracious and thoughtful, and it was done by somebody who clearly read the thing and had like, we had similar heart.
Yeah.
And so the review also synopsized what the book was in a way that, not a lot of blurbs do.
Yeah, it says it right there. And it is nice because it's, you give these people credence. You give all the people in the book, kudos. You're not disparaging anybody or, your whole being, Matt Knudsen, is a good guy. That's who you are. You're a good guy.
Thank you, Christine. You're a good gal.
Well, listen,
too.
that's no small thing these days to say you're a good guy, because there's a lot of comedians that are just like, I don't get it and I don't understand who their audience is, but clearly they have young boys that are very angry that they can speak to. I don't know.
The pitch for my book is, it's just celebrities at their absolute best. And it's not dirty laundry airing where you're trying to stab someone in the back for a quick buck. I shine the light on exceptional behavior done by people who deserve it. It's just like, Dick Van Dyke, he's wonderful. Scott Bakula, the best. Alicia Silverstone could not be nicer.
I love that.
So the elevator pitches, I throw people over the bus.
That's exciting. You know, it's funny in life, you think like, well, my heart is bursting with love. And then you meet somebody else and you're like, well, shit, where were you at? Where have you been? It is exciting. Totally. That happens a lot in LA as well, because of course there's so many people here. It's like you just stumble upon a restaurant that's been there for 20 years. You didn't even know it. And boom, it's fantastic. And then you meet somebody and it's like, boom.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's my Alfred Molina story.
Yeah.
I was running the LA Marathon and I stopped in front of Chibo to tie my shoe. And he's sitting at a table right on the sidewalk. He's like, hey, mate, looks like you're running the marathon, huh? And I looked up from tying my shoe and I was just like, are you Alfred Molina? He's like, yeah. And so I just like kind of took a break from the marathon for 5 minutes just to chat him. Well, that's the thing. At that point in the marathon, I stopped. Since I did it for 10 years in a row. Yeah, that's a lot. I didn't try and make like, well, let me check my time. Am I still on pace for 5 minutes? I just jogged the whole thing and I relaxed and I visited with people. But I sat I stood with Alfred Molina and let him know that I think he's the greatest.
Oh, that was so
he's
kind.
the consummate character actor. And he's Have I Seen You in Anything? If you didn't know, but then
he's in everything.
He has built a career of being the fifth and sixth guy in the call sheet. Yeah. And I really relate to that.
He's an amazing actor.
Amazing actor. And then after character actor, where you can just like, you're Doc Ock, and then the next thing you do is some like British drama. Wonderful. And it's just, the range is off the charts. Yeah. So I felt a real kinship.
Sure. I ran one marathon. And that'll be that.
That's a wraparoo.
This experiment is over, ladies and gentlemen. Now I got a car and I use that for transportation. But it is an accomplishment. And really, 10 years is beautiful. You're done now, right? Are you done with the marathons?
I retired. Yeah, I just retired last year.
I feel like your knees and stuff can only take so much pounding, don't you think?
True. And, to be very honest, I was because I ran the first one. And every time it kept coming up, I kept running it. And I thought, 7 would be a good number. That's a kind of a lucky, it's got the shape of a 7 and everything. But on the 7th year I signed up, the city of LA came out with this special medal that they gave to only people who ran it 10 years in a row. And the medal was a replica of the gold medal that was given to the marathon winner when the games were in LA in 1984.
Wow.
So I was just like, I've got to get that right, to be like so close.
Did you ever get one of those?
So I did. I did. After my 10th year, I went and they they put it on my neck, and I'll send you this piece, or at least a link to it. I was just like walking around, and NBC interviewed me. I'm sitting wearing my Dodgers jersey, but when they handed me the medal, I got very emotional because so much of my life had changed in that decade period. But this is this one unifying thing that came up no matter what. I mean, my dad died, and some other family issues had come up, but
running
they
was
just
the
kind of all hit
constant.
me they hit me at the same time when I got that medal in a way I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll bet you'll never
Thanks.
meet anybody in your life that has that.
No,
Nobody's that crazy. 10 marathons is a freaking lot. That's a lot of running.
Maybe Eddie Izzard.
Yeah, maybe.
Right, but
I don't know.
He runs a marathon every day for months on end.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
no, I didn't know that.
Look up Eddie Izzard marathon. I'm like, he's been or she's been. It's really remarkable.
I'll read that. I would like to read that. Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
All right, you guys, we got to wrap it up. Holy cow. Get over to mattknudsen.com. Pick up his book. Have I seen you in anything? True Hollywood Stories from a Guy That Seems Familiar. It's out right now in paperback. Really, it is so entertaining. You can also get it over on Amazon, of course. So pick it up. Have I seen you in anything? And boy, oh boy, you're going to remember Matt Knudsen for sure.
Thanks, Christine.
You bet. All right, you guys. On behalf of the very talented Matt Knudsen, thank you again so much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Christine.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.